Alright everyone, so Boruto chapter 76 has officially been released and I'm here to give you guys my review. But before we get to that, I have to ask you that if you want to show your support for the channel, you know what to do. Leave a like, share this video out there, hit the subscribe button if you haven't, ring the bell for notifications, and please comment down below with whatever your thoughts are on this chapter and where you think the story is going to go from here. Now the chapter picks up where the previous one left off, where Boruto was able to get a glimpse of the future that Momoshiki has constantly warned him about, but he was only able to get bits and pieces of that future, and in one of those pieces he saw Kawaki with his karma mark activated and his arm transformed with blood on his face, and it's highly implied that he attacked Boruto again, possibly because he figured out about Momoshiki being in communication with Boruto, and he did what he did the last time he went up against Boruto, which is basically killing him or trying to kill him in order to prevent Momoshiki taking over Boruto's body and using him to essentially kill Naruto. He doesn't really care what happens to anyone else, but he will stop him from hurting Naruto. And Momoshiki goes on to confirm in this chapter that, yeah, you were able to see fragments of the future that I saw. We then see a conversation between Amado, Shikamaru, and Naruto, where Shikamaru asks Ada about what kind of a person Amado's daughter actually was. And she goes on to state that she was just an ordinary girl. And the reason why he asked this is because he wants to know whether or not she could be dangerous and whether or not she could have any hostile intentions towards Konoha. And then Amado goes on to say, you know, I don't know how I appear to you guys, but I am just a regular person. I don't have any intentions of taking over the world. And then Shikamaru goes on to say something that I thought was kind of funny, where he says that, you know, Amado's answers that he gave us in the previous chapter were kind of anticlimactic. And I can't help but wonder if maybe Kishimoto's just using Shikamaru to state what some of the audience members or what some of the readers are also saying themselves, because I guarantee you there were probably a lot of people after the previous chapter was released who thought that Amado's answers were a little bit anticlimactic and that there wasn't a like a big grand plan that Amado was secretly hiding from everyone else, although that could still be the case. We're gonna have to wait and see. And Naruto goes on to state that, look, whatever this is, it's a private matter between Amado and Kawaki, and that he has no intentions to interfere because he doesn't believe that there's going to be any danger to the village. And he also asks him, you know, why did you keep this to yourself? Why didn't you just tell us from the beginning? And then Amado says, because it was no one's business. And even if I did tell you, it's not like you could have helped me in any way. And he said that he had to be careful because he knows that Kawaki hates karma. And, you know, if he did tell him, then I think it's understandable for anyone to come to the conclusion that Kawaki would have probably refused because, again, they know he hates karma. And Kawaki himself does go on to state that, you know, for a long time, I've always hated karma because I thought it was the cause for all the shitty things that happened to me in my life. But then he says that no, he was wrong, and that the actual cause were the Otsutsuki themselves, which technically he isn't wrong, but I just feel like it's a little bit childish. And I've also seen a lot of people say that Kawaki is starting to remind them of Sasuke a little bit, or more specifically end of part 2 Sasuke, where he revealed that his ultimate goal after, you know, going through all the things that he went through in his life, after talking to the previous Kage, after, you know, after their fight against Madara and Obito, and talking to Itachi, after Itachi revealed everything to him, after their fight with Kabuto, he ended up realizing, or came to the conclusion, that the entire system that's currently in place needs to be removed because it's this system that's caused a lot of people pain, not just myself. And he wants to make sure that what happened to himself doesn't happen to everyone else. A lot of people are saying that this is basically a lot like Sasuke at that point. For me personally, I don't necessarily agree with that. I can see where people are coming from, but I think that Sasuke's arguments at the end of part 2 before he fought Naruto were a little bit more nuanced because he went through more things that Kawaki did, and he was able to actually converse with a lot more people who had more experience than he did, and he was able to come to the conclusion that he did. But with Kawaki, I feel like he's kind of jumping the gun a little bit. even though again technically he's not incorrect and that the Otsutsuki are kind of a little bit responsible for a lot of the things that we know happen in the history of the Naruto universe. He then goes on to ask Amado about whether or not his daughter could possibly turn into a new Otsutsuki if he does indeed go through with this. And Amado goes on to state that, well, he doesn't know because there's no precedent for this. This has never been done before. So even he doesn't know what's going to happen. And it's basically a lot like what happened when he came up with a plan with Kashin Koji in order to kill Jigen to resurrect Ishiki. He had this hypothesis that if Ishiki used Jigen to reincarnate himself, then that's going to remove all the other karma marks that he placed, which technically turned out to be true, but he said it himself, like he doesn't know, or he didn't know whether or not it would happen because it's never been done before, or he himself has never seen it happen. And he goes on to essentially cover his face, and it looks like he's breaking down, saying that this is the only option I have left to bring my daughter back. Now, for me personally, I'm not buying it. I think that he's kind of putting on an act. I could be wrong, but that's just kind of how it comes off to me. And we do get a panel focusing on Naruto where he looks very sympathetic, and I don't know, again, for me, just it looks like he's putting on an act, and I really hope that Naruto doesn't end up falling for it. But again, that's just me. I could be wrong. Maybe other people see it differently. Maybe other people believe that he's actually being genuine. If you do, let me know why in the comment section down below. Because for me personally, it just kind of looks like he's putting on an act. We then see Ada essentially say that, you know what, I'm tired, let's just call it a day. And Naruto says, fine, we'll continue the conversation tomorrow. Or Ada says, we're going to continue the conversation. And then we cut to Boruto, and he's looking at his karma mark, and he's thinking again to what Momoshiki told him and what he was able to see, just a little bit of the future that Momoshiki saw all that time ago. And we see Ada looking at Kawaki, and Kawaki's just thinking about everything that he was just told, obviously, about, you know, Shibai, about divine jutsu, and everything Amado told him, and of course his current realization that the Otsutsuki are the cause for all of his problems. So we cut to the next day, and we see Boruto, Kawaki, Ada, and Damon sitting at a table eating breakfast, and Boruto asks Ada, you know, if it's Otsutsuki that you're going after, then why wasn't I considered? Why pick Kawaki? Damon goes on to make a funny comment like, it was actually your looks, that's why she didn't pick you. And Ada confirms that, no, it's because you're only 12 and I'm already 16, which honestly confused me a little bit because I thought that Kawaki was also 12, but maybe he's actually a little bit older than Boruto, which I guess is probably the reason why she picked him. Or maybe she just likes Kawaki more. And Boruto, even for a moment, was able to catch himself because he almost thought about killing Damon, and then he remembered, oh yeah, his ability, not really a smart idea. And then Kawaki looks at Ada, and he essentially reveals that he figured out that she was in an alliance with Code because Code hates Kawaki, and Kawaki himself knows this. He knows that Code hates him. So why didn't he just immediately feed him to the 10 tails in order to grow the chakra fruit? But he specifically said that he wasn't going to do that, and he realized that the only way he would have been able to not feed Kawaki to the 10 tails, no matter how much he hated him, is if he was doing it for someone else. And then he realized, oh, that someone else must have been Ada. And then he goes on to reveal that you essentially sold out Boruto in order to make sure that he doesn't do anything to me, because otherwise there's no way he wouldn't have just fed me to the 10 tails, considering again how much he hates him. And then he asks her whether or not what he said was true, and then Ada can only think about, oh my god, he said my name, and I'm like super happy. I'm not making that up, that's what she actually says. And then Kawaki thinks that the look on Ada's face means that he got it right, and then Damon essentially confirms that, yeah, you got it right. And then he makes a statement that says that the only people who ever want something from me are all scum. And then Damon reminds him, dude, that's my sister you're talking about. Do you want me to remind you of what I did the first time I got here? And just a little funny exchange. And then once that happens, Ada essentially reveals that, you know, there's not enough girls here. There's just too many guys. And she calls for Sarada and Sumire to be brought over here to this house. and they effectively agree to it, not that they could refuse. And then Shikadai also says that he wants to go with them since he wasn't affected by her ability, only for him to be affected by her ability. And again, it's just a little comedic moment. So Shikadai ends up leaving, and it's only Sarada and Sumire being left alone with Ada. They go over to what I'm assuming is probably Ada's bedroom, and they're just sitting there having a conversation. Ada's just talking about, you know, how she feels whenever Kawaki looks at her. And while this is happening, Sarada and Sumire are having a conversation where Sumire ends up asking Sarada whether or not she was feeling any attraction towards Ada, and they both reveal that no, they haven't been feeling any attraction to Ada at all, and they come to the conclusion that both of them are unaffected by Ada's ability. They don't know why, of course. All they do know is that they are immune to it, and they eventually relay this information to Shikamaru, and Shikamaru goes on to tell them not to reveal this information to anyone, including Boruto and Kawaki, to ensure that this doesn't eventually get revealed to Ada, because obviously the more people you reveal information to, eventually it's going to start spreading to other people. So this was a smart move, in my opinion, by Shikamaru for them to, or for him to tell them not to reveal this information to anyone. And he goes on to state that if this is true, then that means that you two, along with Boruto and Kawaki, could be the only people who could possibly kill Ada should she ever become a problem. Now, obviously, I don't think they would be able to currently because, you know, Ada is obviously a lot stronger than them. But possibly in the future, if they do get stronger, they would be able to fight against Ada, maybe not overpower her on their own, but possibly working together, they could be able to essentially come up with a plan to take her down. Now, that just feels like what's being set up to me. I could be wrong. We'll have to wait and see. Now, as to why Ada and Sumire are unaffected by this, again, we don't really know why. I've seen some people theorize that maybe the reason why Sarada at least is unaffected by her is because she's an Uchiha, and we know Uchiha are descended from Otsutsuki, and we do know that her ability doesn't work on Otsutsuki members and blood relatives, but that doesn't explain why Sumire is unaffected by her ability. We cut to Momoshiki essentially saying that he's figured out what Ada's ability actually is, and then Boruto asks him, okay, well, what is it? And Momoshiki says, you don't have to concern yourself with that, it's just our thoughts being crossed over. Once again, I was just talking to myself and you just heard it. And he goes on to ask again, well, what exactly is her ability? And Momoshiki doesn't say anything. And then Boruto essentially calls him out, saying that the moment you have something that I actually want, that's when you choose to keep your mouth shut. And we find out why Momoshiki was saying nothing. It's because Kawaki was looking over to Boruto, and he reveals that he knows that he was talking to someone, and he walks over to Boruto, who's sitting next to Damon, and he essentially calls out Momoshiki. So Kawaki reveals to Boruto that he knows that Momoshiki's there, and he knows that Boruto's been talking to him. And the fact that he revealed this next to Damon is probably going to piss him off. Damon is not going to be happy that Boruto was conversing with Momoshiki and he was keeping it a secret from everyone, because he's probably going to think that you were probably conspiring to find a way to take my sister out, and if that's the case, then I'm just going to kill you, you know, right here. And that's, even if Damon doesn't do that, Kawaki could possibly do that himself, because he knows that Momoshiki's a threat. He knows that if Momoshiki takes over Boruto's body, he could possibly end up hurting Naruto. And that could possibly be what leads to the events that we saw in the future that Boruto saw, which we were shown at the end of Boruto chapter 75. But those are just my thoughts, guys. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section down below. And while you're here, maybe consider leaving a like, sharing this video, hit the subscribe button if you're new, ring the bell for notifications. All those things go a long way in helping a channel out with the algorithm. And I hope I'll see you guys for my review of Boruto chapter 77. Bye for now.